Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm really happy you're here with us today.
And I'm glad you're here too. And today we're going to talk about something a lot of English learners ask about, but it can be hard to explain in a simple way. How to talk like a native American English speaker.
Yeah, because maybe you already understand grammar. Maybe you already know a lot of vocabulary. Maybe you can watch videos, read articles, and write clear sentences. But then you hear two native speakers talking naturally, and suddenly everything feels different. The rhythm is faster. The phrases are shorter. People react quickly, interrupt gently, change direction, joke a little. And sometimes they don't even finish the sentence in a perfect textbook way.
Exactly. And that can be frustrating because the problem is not always knowledge. A lot of advanced learners know the English, but they don't always know how to make it sound relaxed, casual, and natural in the moment.
Right. So this is our American English Native Speaker Conversation series. So today we're not doing drills or vocabulary lists. We're just going to have a real conversation about how native American English speakers actually talk at normal speed, the way people would naturally speak with a friend.
So, just listen naturally. Notice the rhythm, the small reactions, the soft opinions, the little stories, the way we agree and disagree, and the way the conversation moves. If you pick up a useful phrase along the way, that's a bonus. Should we get into it?
Let's do it. I think the first thing we should make clear is that talking like a native American speaker does not mean speaking perfect English. That idea puts way too much pressure on people. Native speakers are not walking grammar books. We pause, we repeat ourselves, we restart sentences. We say, I mean, honestly, kind of, you know, and like when we're thinking. Sometimes we begin a sentence, realize it's not going where we want, and then completely change direction halfway through.
Absolutely. Native speech is not perfect speech, it's comfortable speech. That's the difference. A native speaker usually sounds natural because they can move through the conversation without freezing every time the sentence is a little messy.
Comfortable speech. I like that.
Right? Because when people imagine native speakers, they sometimes imagine someone speaking fast, smoothly, and confidently every second. But real people don't talk like a polished speech. If you record a normal conversation and write it down, it can look surprisingly messy.
So messy.
Very messy. There are unfinished thoughts, repeated words, random reactions, little jokes that go nowhere, and sentences that technically would not win a grammar award.
That's true. And honestly, that should be encouraging. If your sentence is not perfect, the conversation is not ruined. Native speakers are not perfect either. The bigger question is, can you keep the conversation moving? Can you react naturally? Can you repair your sentence if it comes out wrong? Can you sound interested in the other person?
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the biggest differences between textbook English and native American conversation: reactions. Native speakers react a lot. They don't just answer questions. They respond to the feeling behind what someone said.
Yes. If someone says, I had the worst day at work, a very correct response might be, what happened? That's fine. But a more natural response would be, oh no, that's rough. What happened? Or, I'm sorry. What made it so bad? The reaction comes first.
And that little reactions makes the other person feel heard. It's small, but it changes the whole mood of the conversation.
Exactly. If someone says, I finally got the job, and you only say, when do you start? It's not wrong. But it feels a little cold. A native speaker would probably say, no way, that's amazing. When do you start? Or, oh my gosh, congratulations. How are you feeling?
That's such a good point. Native conversation is not only information exchange, it's emotional exchange.
Ooh, emotional exchange. I like that.
It sounds serious, but it's true. Even casual conversation has emotion inside it. Someone tells you good news, bad news, something awkward, something funny, and your first job is usually to meet the emotion, not just collect the facts.
Yes. And that is one reason some learners sound more formal than they realize. Their sentences are clear, but the emotional reaction is missing. They answer the question, but they don't fully respond to the person.
For example, if I say, I barely slept last night, and you say, why? That's direct. But if you say, oh no, that's the worst. Why? What happened? It feels much more natural.
Exactly. Or if someone says, my sister is visiting this weekend, you might say, oh, nice, that should be fun. Do you have plans? That little oh, nice warms up the sentence.
And American English has a lot of those warm-up phrases. Oh, nice. That's great. That's rough. That's wild. That's hilarious. That makes sense. I get that. For sure. Totally. No, exactly. Some of them are very short, but they do a lot of work.
No, exactly is such a funny one, because it starts with no, but it means strong agreement.
English really said, let's keep everyone humble.
It did. But that phrase is everywhere in American conversation. If I say, people focus so much on grammar that they forget natural reactions, you might say, no, exactly. You're not disagreeing. You're strongly agreeing.
And tone makes it clear. That's another huge part of sounding native. Tone. The same words can mean different things depending on how you say them.
Yes, okay is the perfect example. Okay can sound friendly. Okay can sound uncertain. Okay can sound cold. And okay can mean you're checking if the other person understands.
Same word, different world.
Exactly. Same word, different world. That's why sounding native is not only about learning more words. It's about hearing how words behave in real conversation.
And noticing that American English often sounds relaxed because people soften things. They don't always give a hard yes or a hard no. They say, I think so, probably, kind of, not really. For the most part, I'm not sure, or it depends.
It depends is one of the most useful native-sounding answers in English.
Totally. If someone asks, do you like living in a big city? A natural answer might be yeah. For the most part, it can be a lot sometimes, but I'd probably get bored somewhere too quiet. That sounds more real than just saying, yes, I like living in a big city.
Because real opinions usually have layers.
Exactly. Native speakers often give the answer, then the small contrast, then the personal feeling. That little movement makes the sentence sound natural.
And that's something I noticed years ago when I was talking with a friend who spoke excellent English. His grammar was great. His vocabulary was great. People understood him easily. But he told me, I still don't feel like I sound natural. And when we had conversations, I started noticing a pattern.
What was it?
His answers were always correct, but they were very direct. If I asked, how was your weekend? He would say, it was good. If I asked, do you like your job? He would say, yes, I do. If I asked, what did you do yesterday? He would say, I went shopping.
Everything is technically correct, but there's not much for the other person to work with.
Exactly. The conversation kept stopping because there was nothing to grab onto. Native speakers often add one more piece of information than necessary. Not a whole speech, just one extra detail.
That's a great way to put it. One extra detail.
Right. So instead of, my weekend was good, a native speaker might say, it was pretty good, actually. I finally caught up on sleep. Or, it was good, but it went by way too fast. Or, it was good. I spent most of it with family.
And now the conversation has somewhere to go.
Exactly. Because I can respond to that. If you say you finally caught up on sleep, I can ask why you were tired. If you say it went by too fast, I can agree and tell a similar story. If you say you spent it with family, I can ask what you did together.
That's something native speakers do naturally. They leave little openings in their answers.
Yes, little openings. Conversation is easier when you give the other person something to catch.
I love that image, because if someone asks, how was work? And you answer, fine, the ball basically drops to the floor.
Exactly.
But if you say it was fine, just really busy, now I can ask why it was busy.
Or if you say, it was actually pretty interesting today. Now I'm curious.
Curiosity is such an important part of conversation.
It really is. And curiosity goes both ways. Native speakers are constantly asking follow-up questions, not because they memorized a conversation rule, but because they genuinely want to keep the interaction moving.
Yes. And the funny thing is that the follow-up questions are often very simple.
Very simple.
Things like, really? How come? What happened? How was that? What was that like? Did you enjoy it? Would you do it again?
Exactly. Nothing complicated. But those questions make people feel listened to.
I remember meeting someone at a party years ago. We started talking, and he told me he worked in architecture. Now, I know almost nothing about architecture. So for a second, I panicked internally.
Understandable.
I thought, okay, this conversation is over. I have no idea what to say next, but instead of changing the topic, I asked, what kind of projects do you work on?
Good question.
And suddenly he became incredibly engaged. He started talking about restoring old buildings, dealing with historical regulations, trying to preserve original details while making everything safe and modern. And honestly, it was fascinating.
Because people usually enjoy talking about things they care about.
Exactly. I didn't need to know architecture. I just needed curiosity.
That's such an important lesson. A lot of learners think they need better English to have better conversations. Sometimes they just need better curiosity.
Ooh, I like that.
Because if you're curious, you naturally ask questions. You naturally react. You naturally stay involved.
And those reactions sound very native. Things like, no way. Seriously? That's interesting. That's crazy. I never thought about it like that.
I never thought about it like that is a great phrase.
It really is. And it works in so many situations. Someone gives you a new perspective, and instead of immediately agreeing or disagreeing, you acknowledge the idea.
That phrase also keeps the conversation open.
Exactly. Native speakers often keep the door open instead of immediately closing it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, imagine someone says, I think working from home is better than working in an office. One response is, no, you're wrong. Door closed.
Very closed.
But another response is, I see what you mean, but I think I'd miss being around people all day. Now the conversation continues.
That's true. Native speakers often disagree softly.
Especially in casual conversation.
Yes. You'll hear phrases like, I get what you're saying, but. That's a fair point, but. I can see both sides, honestly. Or maybe, but here's the thing.
Here's the thing is such a useful phrase.
It really is. Because it signals that you're about to explain your real opinion.
And Americans use it constantly.
All the time.
I also think learners sometimes focus too much on advanced vocabulary and not enough on conversational phrases.
Absolutely. Native speakers often use surprisingly simple words.
Exactly. If I'm talking to a friend, I probably won't say, the situation generated a significant amount of frustration. I'll probably say, it was such a pain.
Or, it drove me crazy.
Or, it was annoying.
Native conversation is often built from simple words used naturally.
Yes, simplicity sounds natural. Complexity sounds impressive sometimes. But natural speech is usually simpler than people expect.
And native speakers love little emotional expressions.
So many.
That's awesome. That's brutal. That's rough. That's hilarious. That's awkward. That's wild.
That's wild has become one of my favorites.
Same.
Because it works for so many situations. Someone tells you a crazy story, and you can just say, that's wild.
It's flexible.
Very flexible. And flexibility is one reason certain phrases become common. They fit many different conversations.
Another thing that makes native speakers sound natural is storytelling.
Definitely.
Native speakers tell little stories all the time. Sometimes someone asks a simple question, and the answer becomes a tiny story.
Like, do you like cooking?
Exactly. A simple answer is yes, I do. But a native speaker might say, yeah, actually, I got into cooking during college because I was completely broke and couldn't afford takeout all the time.
And immediately the answer becomes more interesting.
Because now there's context.
And personality.
Exactly. Native speakers often explain where an opinion came from.
That's true. They tell the story behind the opinion.
If I say, I love coffee, that's fine. But if I say, I didn't even drink coffee until my first office job, and now I can barely function without it, that feels more personal.
It also gives the listener something to respond to.
Yes. Maybe they tell their own coffee story. Maybe they ask when you started drinking it. Maybe they say they still hate coffee.
Which would be a shocking opinion.
A truly shocking opinion.
But a valid one.
Barely.
See, that little teasing back and forth is also very common in native conversations.
It is. Friendly teasing happens all the time.
Especially between friends.
Right. Native speakers often joke about themselves, joke about situations, and lightly tease people they're comfortable with.
Self-deprecating humor is especially common.
Sorry, comment.
Things like, I have the attention span of a goldfish, or my sense of direction is terrible, or I'm the least organized person on earth.
Exactly. Little exaggerations.
And they make the conversation feel relaxed.
They do. Because conversation is not just information. It's personality.
That might be one of the biggest differences between textbook English and real English.
I agree. Textbooks often focus on information. Real conversations focus on people.
That's a great way to put it.
And once you start noticing that, native conversations become easier to understand. You stop listening only for facts. You start listening for emotion, personality, curiosity, humor, and connection.
And honestly, that's where a lot of natural-sounding English comes from.
Another thing people often notice about Native American speakers is that we don't always answer in a straight line. We add little side comments. We qualify what we mean. We change the strength of the statement while we're speaking.
Yes, and that can sound confusing at first, but it's actually what makes the speech feel natural. For example, someone might say, I like the restaurant, but I don't know. It was kind of loud, and the service was a little all over the place. That answer is not perfectly neat, but it sounds real.
Exactly. Real opinions are often mixed. Native speakers are comfortable saying two things at once. I liked it, but it was good, although I had fun, except I'd go again, but maybe not on a weekend. Those phrases make the opinion feel more honest.
And they help you avoid sounding too extreme. If every opinion is I love it or I hate it, the conversation can feel a little flat.
Right. Native speakers often live in the middle. They say, it was pretty good. It was okay. It wasn't bad. It was better than I expected. Or, it didn't really do it for me.
It didn't really do it for me is such a natural phrase.
Very natural. And it's a softer way to say you didn't like something. For example, if someone asks, did you like that movie? You could say, honestly, it didn't really do it for me. That sounds casual, honest, and not too harsh.
It's also less final than the movie was bad, because maybe the movie wasn't bad, maybe it just wasn't your style.
Exactly. American English has a lot of phrases like that. Not my thing, not really my style. I can see why people like it, but these help you express personal preference without attacking the thing.
That's important, especially in social conversations. If someone loves a movie and you say, that movie was terrible, you might accidentally make them feel judged.
Right. But if you say, I can see why people love it, but I don't know, it wasn't really my thing, that feels much smoother.
And smoother is often the goal in conversation. Not fake, not dishonest, just smoother.
Yes. Native speakers are not always trying to be perfectly polite, but they often try to keep the social mood comfortable.
Unless they're arguing on the internet.
True, then all rules disappear.
It becomes the Wild West.
Exactly. But in normal conversation, softening matters. And I think one mistake learners sometimes make is translating their direct thought into English without adjusting the social tone.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine a friend suggests a restaurant, and you don't want to go there. You could say, I don't like that restaurant. That's clear, but it might sound a little blunt. A native speaker might say, I'm not crazy about that place, to be honest. What about the Thai place around the corner?
I'm not crazy about that place is great.
It is. It means you don't really like it, but it sounds more casual and less sharp.
And then you offer another option, which helps move the conversation forward.
Exactly. Native speakers often pair a soft disagreement with an alternative. I'm not sure about Friday. Could we do Saturday? I don't know if that time works for me. What about later in the afternoon? I'm not crazy about that idea. Maybe we could try something simpler.
That sounds natural because you're not just blocking the conversation, you're redirecting it.
Yes. Redirecting is a big part of sounding natural.
Another area where learners sometimes sound formal is giving advice.
Definitely.
If someone tells you they're stressed and you say, you should manage your time better, that may be grammatically correct, but emotionally dangerous.
Very dangerous.
A native speaker would probably soften it. Maybe you could take one thing off your plate. Have you thought about asking for help? I wonder if it would help to take a break. Honestly, I'd probably start with sleep.
Those sound much more natural because they don't feel like commands.
Exactly. Advice in American English is often indirect, especially between adults. People don't always want to be told what to do,
No, they really don't.
even if they asked.
Especially if they asked.
That is painfully true.
So native speakers use phrases like, maybe you could, you might want to, it might help to. If it were me, I'd. These make advice sound more like a suggestion.
If it were me, I'd is one of my favorites.
Same. It's useful because you're not saying you must do this. You're saying, here is what I would do in your situation.
That feels respectful.
Exactly. And respect is built into a lot of natural phrasing.
I remember once I gave advice too directly without realizing it. My friend was stressed about moving apartments, and I said, just hire movers. In my mind, I was being practical.
Classic problem solver mode.
Exactly. But she looked at me and said, Alex, I know movers exist. And I immediately realized that was not what she needed.
Oh, no.
She needed me to say, that sounds overwhelming, before jumping to a solution. So I corrected myself and said, sorry, that came out too practical. I just mean, you shouldn't have to do all of it alone.
That repair was really good.
Thank you. I learned under pressure.
But that's such a native conversation moment. You said something too direct, noticed the reaction, repaired it, and softened the message.
Exactly. And repair phrases are incredibly useful. Sorry, that came out wrong. Let me rephrase that. I didn't mean it like that. What I'm trying to say is, native speakers use those all the time.
And those phrases make mistakes less scary. Because even native speakers say awkward things.
Constantly.
All the time. I once told a coworker, you look tired, but in a good way.
There is no good way.
There is absolutely no good way. I heard the sentence leave my mouth and immediately wanted to disappear into the carpet.
What did you say after?
I said, sorry, that came out wrong. I meant you look relaxed, like you had a calm weekend. Which was still not perfect, but it was better than tired in a good way.
Barely better, but better.
I'll take it.
That story actually proves the point. Native speakers don't avoid awkward moments. They recover from them.
Exactly. Recovery is part of fluency. It is. And I think that idea helps people relax. You don't have to speak like a perfect machine. You need enough natural phrases to keep moving when the conversation gets a little messy.
Exactly. And one of the best natural phrases is, what I mean is, that phrase is so useful because it lets you explain yourself again without making the moment awkward.
Yes. For example, you might say, I don't like working with people, and then realize that sounds terrible.
Very terrible.
So you can repair it. Wait, what I mean is, I like working with people, but I also need quiet time to focus. Now, the meaning is clearer, and the conversation feels normal again.
That's such a realistic example. Because sometimes the first sentence comes out too strong. Native speakers know how to adjust the strength of the sentence after they hear themselves.
Exactly. And that is a very native skill. You say something, hear it, and then soften it. That sounds harsh, but maybe that's not the best way to say it. Let me say that differently. Those phrases show that you are thinking while speaking.
And they make you sound more natural because real speech is not edited before it comes out. It gets edited while it comes out.
That is painfully accurate.
Live editing. That's basically conversation.
Yes. And another thing native speakers do is invite the other person into the conversation. They don't just talk and talk. They check in. They say, you know what I mean? Have you ever had that happen? Does that make sense? What do you think?
That's huge. American conversation often has these little invitations. They keep the other person from feeling like they're just listening to a monologue.
Exactly. And actually, since we're talking about sounding natural, I want to ask the people listening to do something simple. If there is one phrase from today's conversation that sounds useful, natural, or new to you, write it in the comments. Not a perfect sentence, not a long answer, just one phrase you noticed.
I like that. Because commenting is a small way to turn listening into active noticing.
Yes, and it also helps other learners. If one person writes, that came out wrong, another person might think, oh, I need that phrase too. If someone writes, I'm not totally convinced, another person may suddenly notice how useful that is for polite disagreement.
That's true. The comment section can become a little phrase notebook.
Exactly. And I would honestly love to see which phrases people notice. Sometimes the phrases that feel normal to native speakers are the exact phrases learners need most.
Right, because we don't always realize what sounds native until someone points it out.
Yes. So if you're listening, comment one phrase you want to start using in real conversations. It can be, here's the thing. That's fair. I see what you mean. Let me rephrase that. Anything. And if you want, add a tiny example sentence with it.
That would be great. And it doesn't need to be perfect. The point is to notice, try, and make the phrase yours.
Exactly. Now, another big part of Native American conversation is how people connect ideas. In informal writing, people use words like therefore, however, furthermore, and in conclusion. Those words have their place, but in casual conversation, they can sound too formal.
Very formal. If you say furthermore at brunch, people may gently take your coffee away.
As they should.
For your own safety.
In natural conversation, people usually use softer connectors like so, but, and then anyway, plus the thing is, on top of that, at the same time, and to be fair.
At the same time is a really good one because it lets you hold two ideas together.
Yes. For example, I like living alone. At the same time, it can get a little lonely. That sounds natural because both things can be true.
Native speakers love that kind of balance. I enjoy my job. At the same time, I don't want it to take over my whole life. I like social media. At the same time, I know I waste too much time on it.
Exactly. And, to be fair, is another natural connector. It softens your statement and shows that you're considering another side.
Like, the movie was too long. To be fair, the ending was really good.
Or he was late. To be fair, traffic was awful.
That sounds very American. People often complain, then soften the complaint.
Yes, we complain politely. It's an art form.
A national hobby.
Honestly, yes. And polite complaining uses a lot of natural phrases. I don't want to be dramatic, but maybe it's just me, but I'm not trying to complain, but. And then, usually, the person complains.
Every time.
Every time. I'm not trying to complain, but this line is moving unbelievably slowly. That sounds natural because the phrase prepares the listener for a mild complaint.
It also makes the complaint feel less aggressive.
Right. And that's another pattern learners can notice. Native speakers often prepare the listener before saying something negative, strong, or sensitive.
Like, I don't mean to be rude, but, although sometimes what follows is absolutely rude.
Very true. That phrase is dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. If someone says, I don't mean to be rude, but, everyone gets nervous.
Because they are probably about to be rude.
Exactly.
A safer version is, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but, or I hope this doesn't sound too harsh, but, those phrases show more awareness.
And awareness is a big part of natural conversation. You are not only saying words, you are managing how those words land.
Yes, how the words land. That is so important. Native speakers often adjust their language based on how they think the other person might receive it.
And that's why conversation feels alive. You're constantly reading the room.
Exactly. Reading the room means noticing the mood, the people, the timing, and the situation before you speak.
If everyone is joking, you can be more playful. If someone is upset, you soften. If the conversation is professional, you choose cleaner language. If you're with close friends, you can be more casual.
That flexibility is what makes someone sound natural.
And it takes time, even for native speakers.
It does. And I think one reason native speakers sound relaxed is that they are comfortable with small interruptions. Not rude interruptions, but natural ones. They might jump in with right, exactly, wait, oh, that reminds me, or sorry, go ahead. Conversation is not always perfectly organized.
Yes, real conversation has overlap. Two people start talking at the same time, one person backs up, the other person continues, and nobody makes a big deal out of it. That little repair is part of the rhythm.
Exactly. If you accidentally speak at the same time as someone else, you can say, sorry, go ahead, or no, you go, or I didn't mean to cut you off. Those phrases are very natural.
I didn't mean to cut you off is one of those phrases that instantly makes the moment smoother.
Yes, because it shows awareness. You notice the small interruption, and you fixed it politely. Native speakers do that constantly, without thinking too much about it.
And the opposite happens too. Sometimes you want to enter the conversation, especially in a group, but you don't want to sound like you're forcing your way in.
Right. That can be hard. In a group conversation, if you wait for a completely perfect pause, you may never speak.
Exactly. So native speakers use entry phrases. Can I jump in for a second? I was going to say. That reminds me. Actually, funny enough. Wait, can we go back to what you said about? These phrases help you enter naturally.
Wait, can we go back to? Is really useful because conversations move quickly. Someone may say something interesting, then the topic changes, and you want to return to it without sounding random.
Right. You can say, wait, can we go back to what you said about your job? I'm curious about that. That sounds natural and interested.
And I was going to say is another very common one. For example, if you and another person start making the same point, you can say, I was going to say the same thing. It creates connection.
It also makes you sound engaged. You are not just waiting for your turn. You are building on what was said.
Yes, building on what was said is a major part of native conversation. If someone tells you, I started going to the gym again, you don't have to change the topic. You can build on it. Oh, nice. What made you start again? Or I've been meaning to do that too, but I keep putting it off.
That last one sounds very real.
Because it adds honesty.
And a little self-awareness.
Exactly. Native speakers often add small honest comments like that. I keep putting it off. I've been meaning to. I always say I'm going to, and then I don't. Those phrases make the conversation feel personal.
They also make you sound less robotic. Nobody wants to hear only perfect, polished answers.
True. A polished answer can be impressive, but a human answer is usually more engaging.
I think this connects to filler words too. People often say fillers are bad, but in natural American speech, fillers can be helpful when they're used lightly.
Definitely. Fillers like I mean, honestly, actually, basically, and like can help a sentence sound more natural. But the key is lightly. If every sentence has 5 fillers, the listener starts fighting for survival.
Please send help. I'm trapped inside a sentence that started 4 minutes ago.
Exactly. But a few fillers are normal because people think while they speak. For example, I mean, I liked it, but I wouldn't watch it again. That sounds natural. Or, honestly, I thought it would be worse. Very normal.
Actually is interesting too. Native speakers use it to gently correct, add surprise, or change direction. Like, actually, I ended up enjoying it, or actually, I don't think that's the main issue.
Yes. And basically is useful when you want to simplify a story. Basically, we got there late, missed the first part, and had no idea what was going on.
That sounds like me at every movie with a complicated plot.
Same. I spend the first 30 minutes whispering, "Is he the brother?"
And everyone hates you.
Fair. But see, that little side joke is also part of natural conversation. Native speakers don't always stay on the main road. They take tiny detours.
Tiny detours are what make conversation feel alive.
Exactly. A conversation that is too perfectly organized can feel unnatural. Real conversations have side comments, small jokes, memories, reactions, and then they come back to the main point.
Usually.
Usually. Sometimes they never come back.
And that's okay too, honestly.
It is. But if you want to bring a conversation back naturally, American English has phrases for that. Anyway. But yeah, so like I was saying, going back to what you said, or where was I?
Where was I? Is very natural when you lose your place in a story.
Very natural. And it makes the moment feel normal instead of awkward. Everyone loses their place sometimes.
I lose my place in my own kitchen.
That is a different issue.
Probably.
Another important feature of Native American speech is rhythm. People often think native speakers are simply speaking fast, but a lot of the difficulty comes from stress and reduction. Some words are strong, and some words become very light.
Yes. In casual speech, going to often becomes gonna, want to becomes wanna, and have to sounds like have to. But the goal is not to force every reduction. The goal is to recognize the rhythm and slowly sound more relaxed.
Exactly. If you say every word with equal force, you may sound clear, but also stiff. Native speakers usually stress the important words and let the smaller words connect.
For example, what do you want to do? May sound like what I want to do in casual speech.
Right. And if you're not used to it, it sounds like one long word. But once you hear the pattern, it becomes less mysterious.
That's why native speech feels fast. The words are not always fast individually. They are connected.
Connected speech is huge.
And it is not only pronunciation. It affects the feeling of the whole conversation.
It does. And one thing I want to make clear is that connected speech does not mean swallowing every word. Sometimes people hear native speakers and think, okay, I need to speak faster and less clearly. But that is not the goal. The goal is to sound relaxed while still being understandable.
Yes, clear but relaxed. That's the sweet spot.
Exactly. And honestly, I would rather hear someone speak a little slower with natural rhythm than speak too fast and lose the meaning. Native speakers adjust all the time. If we are telling a story, we may speed up during the easy parts and slow down when we get to the important part.
That's so true. Speed changes depending on the emotion. If someone is excited, they might talk faster. If they are making a serious point, they may slow down. If they are unsure, they might pause and say, I don't know, I'm still thinking about it.
Yes, that phrase is very natural. I'm still thinking about it. It gives you permission not to have a perfect answer immediately.
And native speakers use that kind of phrase all the time. I haven't totally figured it out. I'm still on the fence. I go back and forth. Those phrases are useful because they show uncertainty in a natural way.
I'm still on the fence is a great one.
Yeah, it means you have not decided yet. Like, I'm still on the fence about moving, or I'm on the fence about buying a new car.
And I go back and forth means your opinion changes. One day you feel one way, another day you feel the opposite.
Exactly. And that sounds very native because real people are not always completely sure. Sometimes the most natural answer is not a strong opinion. Sometimes it is, honestly, I go back and forth.
That is such a useful phrase for advanced learners because it makes your speaking sound more nuanced.
Nuanced, yes. That's a big part of sounding natural at a higher level. You are not just saying yes or no. You are showing the shape of your thought.
The shape of your thought. I like that.
Thank you. I felt fancy for a second.
You earned it.
But seriously, native speakers often use language that shows how certain they are. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive. I could be wrong. As far as I know, from what I remember, these phrases protect you from sounding too absolute.
Yes, and they are especially useful when you are sharing information, but you are not 100% sure. Instead of saying, the meeting is at 3, you can say, I'm pretty sure the meeting is at 3, but let me double check.
That sounds natural and responsible.
Exactly. Or if someone asks about a restaurant, you might say, from what I remember, it was pretty good, but I haven't been there in a while. That sounds honest.
Native speakers hedge a lot.
We do. And hedging is not weakness. It is social accuracy. You are matching your language to how certain you actually are.
Social accuracy. I like that. It sounds official.
It does, but it's true. If you sound too certain about everything, people may feel like you are arguing, even when you are not.
That happens a lot. Someone says, this is the best way to do it, and the other person immediately wants to push back. But if they say, I found this way usually works pretty well, it feels easier to accept.
Exactly, same idea, softer landing.
Softer landing is a perfect phrase for this.
And American English uses softer landings constantly. I was thinking maybe we could. Would it make sense to? Do you think we should? I wonder if. These phrases make suggestions feel collaborative.
Instead of commands.
Right. If you say, send me the file today, that may be fine in some situations, but it can sound demanding. If you say, could you send me the file sometime today? It sounds more polite and natural.
And if you want to be even softer, you can say, well, whenever you get a chance, could you send me the file? Although if it's urgent, maybe don't say that.
Exactly. If it is urgent, be clear. Native speech is not always soft. It is appropriate to the situation.
That's important. Being natural does not mean being casual all the time. It means choosing the style that fits.
Yes. And that is why register matters so much. With close friends, you might say, can you send me that thing? At work, you might say, could you send that over when you have a chance? In a formal email, you might say, would you be able to send that over by the end of the day?
Same meaning, different social setting.
Exactly. And native speakers switch between those levels without thinking much.
I had a funny moment with this when my cousin started his first office job. He was trying so hard to sound professional that every message sounded like it came from a lawyer in a movie.
Oh, no.
He would write things like, that I have received your previous communication. And I was like, you can just say, got it, thanks.
That is painfully real.
He thought casual meant unprofessional. But in many American workplaces, a short, friendly message is completely normal.
Exactly. Got it, thanks. Sounds good. I'll take a look. No worries. Just checking in. These are very common professional casual phrases.
Professional casual is such an important style in American English.
It is. Because many workplaces are not extremely formal. People still want clarity, respect, and warmth, but not heavy language.
And this also applies outside work. If your English is too formal and that's a casual situation, people may understand you, but the emotional distance feels bigger.
Yes. If a friend asks, "Do you want to come over later?" and you say, "I would be pleased to visit your home this evening," it is correct, but it sounds like you are wearing a suit in the sentence.
Wearing a suit in the sentence is amazing.
Thank you. That sentence has a tie.
A very stiff tie.
So a natural answer would be, "Yeah, that sounds good," or "I'd love to, but I might be a little late," or maybe, "Let me see how my day goes." Fow.
Much better, friendly, normal, and not overly serious.
Exactly. Native American conversation often sounds casual because the relationships are carried through tone, not fancy words. Yes, and tone is also the reason a simple phrase can sound friendly or unfriendly. Sure can be warm, or it can sound annoyed. That's fine. Can mean everything is fine, or it can mean nothing is fine, and you should probably leave the room.
The dangerous. That's fine.
Exactly. So when people want to sound native, they should not only ask, "What phrase should I use?" They should also ask, "What feeling does this phrase carry?"
That's a great question. Because American English has so many phrases that depend on the feeling. Good for you can be genuine, but it can also sound sarcastic. Interesting can mean interesting, or it can mean, I have no idea how to respond to that.
And that's a choice almost never means a normal choice.
No, that phrase is suspicious.
Very suspicious. If someone says, "That outfit is a choice," please understand there is a whole conversation happening under the sentence.
That's actually an advanced part of sounding natural. Hearing the meaning under the words. Native speakers don't always say everything directly, especially when they want to be polite, funny, or careful.
Yes. For example, if someone invites you somewhere and you don't want to go, you might not say, "No, I do not want to go." In many situations, a native speaker might say, "I think I'm going to sit this one out," or "I might pass this time," or "I'm not sure I'm up for it tonight."
Those are very natural, and they feel softer because they don't reject the person. They just decline the plan.
Exactly. "I'm going to sit this one out" is especially useful. It sounds casual, friendly, and clear.
And if you do want to go, but you are not completely sure, you might say, "Let me see how my day goes," or "I'm a maybe," or "I'll let you know."
Though, "I'll let you know" can be dangerous too.
Very dangerous. Sometimes it means, "I will truly let you know." Sometimes it means, "Please understand that I am already disappearing."
Yes. Again, tone and relationship matter. If your close friend says it while checking their calendar, maybe it's real. If someone says it while backing away slowly, probably not.
That is painfully accurate.
Another thing native speakers do is use shared experiences to connect. If someone says, "I hate making phone calls," a native speaker might say, "Oh, same. I have to mentally prepare for 3 business days before calling the dentist."
That is extremely real.
Right? The phrase, "Oh, same" is short, but then the funny detail makes it personal.
And that's different from simply saying, "I agree." I agree is correct, but, "Oh, same" sounds much more casual.
Exactly. Native speech often uses casual agreement plus a small personal detail. "Same, I always do that." "Me too, especially when I'm tired." "I know, that happens to me all the time."
It creates a feeling of shared experience.
Yes. And shared experience is one of the easiest ways to keep a conversation alive. You don't have to have a brilliant answer. You can connect with the feeling.
I want to disagree with one thing. Though, I hear people say, just copy native speakers, and I think that can help, but it can also become weird if someone copies everything without understanding it.
I agree. Copying can be useful, but not blind copying.
Exactly. Like, if a 25-year-old professional copies every phrase from teenage TikTok, it may sound unnatural in a work meeting.
Very unnatural.
Or if someone uses slang that does not match their personality, it can feel forced. Native speakers do not all sound the same. A person from Texas may not speak exactly like a person from Boston. A college student may not speak like a manager. A very sarcastic person may not speak like someone warm and gentle.
That's such an important point. Talking like a native American speaker does not mean having one perfect American style. It means understanding the range and choosing what fits your situation and personality.
Yes, I would rather hear someone sound clear, relaxed, and authentic than hear someone force slang they don't feel comfortable using.
Same. Natural does not mean trendy. Natural means believable.
Ooh, natural means believable. That's good.
Thank you. And believable speech usually matches the person. If you are calm and thoughtful, your English can sound calm and thoughtful. If you are funny, your English can include more humor. If you are direct, you can still be direct, but with the right softeners when needed.
That takes pressure off. You don't have to become a different person in English.
Exactly. You just need the tools to express your real personality in a natural way.
I love that. Because sometimes, learners think native-level speaking means disappearing into a character. But actually, the best conversations happen when your personality comes through.
Yes.
And personality often comes through in small choices. The phrases you use, the stories you tell, the way you react, the little jokes, the way you say, "Honestly, I'm the worst at that," or "I have strong opinions about this for no good reason."
That last one is very American.
It is. "I have strong opinions about this for no good reason" is perfect for low-stakes topics like pizza toppings, airport behavior, or how people load a dishwasher.
I have very strong dishwasher opinions.
I knew you would.
Plates face the same direction. I don't want chaos in there.
See? This is exactly what I mean. Native conversation often becomes specific. We are not just saying, people have opinions. We are suddenly discussing dishwasher organization.
And somehow that makes it more natural.
Because real people talk in specifics. They don't stay abstract forever.
That is a great point. Specific examples make you sound more fluent because they make your language feel lived in.
Yes, lived in English. I like that.
Me too. It sounds cozy.
It does. And that is a good place to bring this back to the main idea. If you want to talk like a native American English speaker, the goal is not to collect thousands of impressive words. The goal is to sound connected to the moment.
Connected to the moment. That feels right, because natural conversation is always responding to what is happening right now. What the other person said, how they said it, what mood they are in, what the situation feels like.
Exactly. And that is why small phrases matter so much. They help you react quickly. They help you soften your thoughts. They help you enter a story. They help you disagree without sounding cold. They help you sound like you are part of the conversation, not just performing English.
And I think learners should be careful not to make native speech into some impossible goal. Native speakers are not doing magic. They are using familiar patterns. They have heard, "That makes sense. I get what you mean. Here's the thing. I'm not sure about that. And that reminds me of something," thousands of times.
Right. And because those phrases are familiar, they come out easily. That is why a natural speaker does not need to think about every grammar rule in the middle of a conversation. The patterns are already there.
So maybe the real goal is not to memorize 100 random phrases in one day. It is to choose a few useful patterns and noticing them everywhere.
Yes, and use them in real answers. If someone asks, "How was your day?" don't only say, "It was good." Try, "It was pretty good, actually. A little busy, but not bad." That sounds simple, but it is already more natural.
Or if someone gives an opinion, don't rush to agree or disagree too sharply. Try, "Yeah, I see what you mean," or "That's fair, but I think it depends." Those phrases give you room.
Room is exactly the word. Native phrases give you room to think, room to be polite, room to be funny, room to change direction.
And room to be yourself. Because the point is not to sound like Sarah or sound like me. The point is to sound like yourself in natural American English.
I love that. And honestly, if people remember only one thing from this conversation, I hope it is this. Natural English is not perfect English. Natural English is responsive English.
Responsive English. That's a good phrase.
It means you listen, react, add a detail, ask a follow-up question, soften when needed, repair when something comes out wrong, and keep the conversation moving.
And sometimes you joke about dishwashers.
Naturally.
Obviously.
But really, that is how native conversations work. They are full of small reactions, little stories, tiny disagreements, unfinished thoughts, tone changes, and personal details. That is why they feel alive.
And if you are listening to this and thinking, I can't do all of that yet, that is completely okay. You do not need to do everything at once. Start with one thing. Maybe add one emotional reaction before your question. Maybe add one extra detail to your answer. Maybe use one soft disagreement phrase instead of saying no too directly.
Exactly. Small changes make a big difference. If you start saying, oh wow, what happened? Instead of only what happened, your conversation already feels warmer. If you say, I get what you mean, but, instead of I disagree, your opinion already sounds smoother. If you say, that came out wrong, let me rephrase that. You can recover naturally instead of freezing.
And those little skills are what make someone sound comfortable. Not flawless. Comfortable.
Yes, comfortable, clear, and connected.
That might be the best summary.
I think so too. And before we close, I want to ask everyone listening to join the conversation in a simple way. In the comments, write one natural American English phrase from today's conversation that you want to use in real life. It could be, that's fair. Here's the thing, I'm on the fence. I get what you mean. Let me rephrase that. Or any phrase that stood out to you.
And if you can, write a short example with it. Nothing perfect, nothing complicated. Just one simple sentence. That helps you turn the phrase from something you heard into something you can actually use.
Yes, and it also helps other learners notice useful phrases too. Sometimes someone else's comment gives you the exact sentence you needed.
That's true. And if this conversation was helpful, please like the video. It really helps the channel and tells us that you want more natural American English conversations like this.
And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. We'll keep having real conversations that help you notice how American English actually sounds in daily life.
Thanks for listening today. Keep noticing the rhythm, the reactions, and the small phrases that make conversation feel natural.
And we'll see you in the next conversation.